I'm great, Randy. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure this will be filled with plenty of words of wisdom given your vast experience.
I hope there was some wisdom, hopefully a little bit of fun too.
There you go. Absolutely. So this is episode 157 of Tech Sales Insights. Really excited to have Dave Schneider on with us here. He is general partner of Coatue and has a fantastic go-to-market history and currently involved in not just the VC side, but also several companies that are fortunate enough to have him as a board member. The title topic is Lessons Learned, Culture, Growth, Hiring, Forecasting, Career, and more. Basically, it's so many different topics. We just kind of threw it all in the blender, so to speak. We are always brought to you by Sales Community. For those that are members, thank you very much. For those that are not, Tucker will put on a link where you can get a free membership at salescommunity.com/winterfree. With we may need to fix that other E there on free, Tucker. And Mona Lisa is chiming in first off. David is the best. All right. So as we go through here, certainly feel free to make any comments and ask any questions. Don't worry about interrupting the flow by any means. And we're also sponsored by Modigi, who's one of the sponsors of Sales Community. We've got a little bit of a longer write-up, but basically they help make sure that you've got the right contact information for those that use Salesforce, and especially the all-important phone numbers and cell phone numbers. Their mission is to help sellers connect with certainty. The problem is engaging buyers today is nearly impossible. Landlines are dead. Job change rates are at an all-time high. And would you believe the majority of the mobile numbers are either wrong or missing? Modigi autocorrects or adds key contact information so sellers can reach the right buyer at the right company with certainty. They have validated and improved millions of contact records, helping increase revenue for marquee companies like Zscaler, Ring, Lacework, Clary, Customer, and others. A few of those by chance happen to be Coatue portfolio companies. So obviously we know Modigi must be fueling their success. Modigi is a Salesforce managed package, takes 90 minutes to set up. It adjusts to customer specific workflows, requires no training, and has 100% adoption rate by its users. Modigi aims for a 50% prospect engagement increase and almost always over delivers. Modigi should ultimately reduce the amount of headcount required to hit new business targets, or can just help you sell more. So check out Modigi if you're not familiar with them. And Tucker, maybe you can throw the link on there as well. And we do have, as always, Tucker behind the scenes helping us navigate and do this. So thanks so much, Tucker. And we have from Andy, Dave Schneider, ServiceNow legend. We will get into some of that. So Dave lives in the Bay Area, two daughters, almost 21 and 23. Interest besides work and family, very passionate with his time and his money around educational access for underprivileged and for girls. Also a golfer. And on the beverage side, has preferences toward wine, tequila, and bourbon. So we'll definitely have to connect. I'm not sure if it's in that order or not. But and then by way of introduction, have some great industry leaders here. So Mike Rich, who's longtime ServiceNow, now CRO at Zscaler, says Dave is an amazing people leader, has a special knack for getting the best out of his team. He uses a coaching style that is effective, collaborative, and inclusive. He is a world-class leader. Kevin Haverty, who was longtime CRO at ServiceNow, now vice chairman. It's kind of hard picturing him as a vice chairman, but anyway, great guy for sure. I met Dave back in 2006 before he was famous. Fortunately, he hired me and we went on a great journey through data domain, EMC, and ServiceNow. There is no single person who has a greater impact on my career. That's amazing. Tom Hannigan, who I knew when he was a Cub Scout puppy at EMC, and it's been awesome to see him excel and do so well now running, I think, North America or Americas at ServiceNow. Dave has an incredible track record of building both high-performing businesses and sales teams. He creates a sales culture of winning, but never loses sight of the customer. Customer always comes first. He also is an amazing developer of sales teams and sales management. I'm lucky to have worked for him. Paul Phipps, president at ServiceNow. Dave is a big reason I'm with ServiceNow. His vision for growth, ability to scale a go-to-market organization, execute relentlessly for the customer has inspired the entire technology industry. He continues to do that at Coatue with the fresh perspectives on where the future is going. He's an icon. Peter Bell, what an amazing man. I feel fortunate to call David a friend. He helped take Data Domain from pre-revenue startup to $1 billion and then scaled the business at ServiceNow from 100 million to 5 billion. Dave and his terrific wife, Barbara, have gotten their time and treasure to many, have given their time and treasure to many impactful community organizations in the Bay Area, including Girls Middle School and Sacred Heart Schools, where I was able to work together with him as a fellow member on the board. He has taken his skills in building winning software businesses to growth capital world, investing and advising in the next generation of companies of consequence. He always finds the time to help someone thinking about what's next, and is a friend and mentor to countless number of leaders and future leaders. And then Bill McDermott, who I actually don't really know, have met kind of a couple of times back in the Mark Hurd days, said, I appreciate you reaching out. David is one of the significant leaders in the history of our company. And he says, hopefully this helps with your podcast Friday. Please give my best to David. So pretty good. And yes, you will get a copy of those. So not that you have any down days, but if you do, that'll perk you right up.
I feel like I'm at my work funeral or something when you go through those kind of things. But that's really lovely. All of those people touched me deeply.
Awesome. So great. So if we jump into the question part here. So UC Irvine, you're on the national championship sailing team. That must have been pretty cool.
It was pretty awesome, and a really good example of living your passion. I always grew up and had fun racing sailboats. And another thing I learned is surround yourself with incredible people. I had multiple All-Americans on that team. I was a cog in the wheel, and I realized my role sometimes wasn't being the star, but helping them to achieve their goals and being there when needed, and had the chance to participate in that process. It was an awesome experience.
No, great. So amazing. So maybe talk a little bit about your first job after UC Irvine.
Sure. Well, I think my sales job started much earlier than my first job after college. Working in the food and beverage business, working in a ski shop, other things like that, and working with customers and trying to delight them. But my first real job was I signed up for a college recruit training program and a computer reseller called Businessland in 1990, back in the day when that was how you could learn and get trained. That program was supposed to last 6 months. My program ended after 2 months because the company had financial difficulty, and my boss said, I walked in one day and half the people were getting fired, and I thought I was one of them. And he said, no, you don't friggin' matter because we don't pay you enough. And so guess what? You're going to 100% commission, no salary, kind of swim or sink. And lucky for me, it ended up being I was the number 2 guy west of the Mississippi in a year. So nothing like a little challenge and adversity.
Awesome. And Tucker, looks like we're going to get a lot of these, so I won't read all of them, but if you want to just kind of post them as they come, thanks. Nice comments. D, Mika, love you. I'll give a shout out to her. +1 to all of that. And Dave is just a great human. Todd Foreman, Dave is flat out one of the best managers, mentors, and friends I had the privilege of working with. David, pleasure working with them both. Data Domain and ServiceNow, the best, and LinkedIn user. Thank you.
And he's also, by the way, really good at changing a tire in 100-degree weather in a humid parking lot in Philadelphia.
Who's that, Todd?
Todd, like, I don't know. And he was angry. So that was fun to watch. One of the great stories.
Nice. Hopefully it was the middle of the summer and you're inside.
It was. And we closed the deal, which was great. But the best part of that was watching him melt down.
All right. So here's a true test, because we always, can't remember who we met last week, but you can remember the deals. Do you remember who the account was?
I do. It was Aeromark, I think, in Philadelphia.
There you go.
I think was
right? Isn't that amazing? How do you remember that? Like, anyway. Jim said Todd is always angry. All right. So after Businessland, maybe go through your impressive career from there.
Yeah. So I decided to actually go to work for one of the product companies I was selling, called Pinnacle Micro in 1992. And growing up here in Silicon Valley, it was really apparent to me that entrepreneurship and the ability to get in with young companies and help them grow was a massive way to try to increase my potential wealth and just seemingly have fun. So I had the benefit of growing up next to entrepreneurs. And my dad was a bit of an entrepreneur himself, and so having that pattern led me down the path of taking more risk earlier in my career. So I joined them as a regional salesperson, and actually at my wedding, about 8 months later, I got asked if I wanted to step up and take a bigger job, which meant traveling nonstop for the next few years. And that was the beginning of my management career. Was I was 24, 25 years old and asked to set up a go-to-market organization there at Pinnacle.
Wow, that's great. And then maybe just kind of buzz through from there.
Oh, sure. So then had great success, took the company public, then went to a startup called Austin Hain, where I learned that not every startup is successful. That company morphed into a company called Success Factors, which was successful, but I left the company at about that time and then went on and kind of meandered through a little bit. Went from having a massive ego, thinking, oh my God, I'm the best VP of sales ever, to being humbled and really had to go back to square one in some ways. Spent a short stint as a salesperson, actually went back to the basics and just said, I just need to go prove myself and roll up the sleeves.
Yeah.
And I went to a small company in Seattle where I ended up within 6 months selling the biggest deal they'd ever done. And then got poached by a guy named Bob Walmsley, who was at Iona Technology. And it was really what I was looking for. I knew that I was young and inexperienced, but had a lot of passion to become world class at leadership. What happened next was taking a time or a break to go find a mentor and not worry about the title, worry about what I was going to learn at an early stage of my career. And so I went and worked for this guy, Bob Walmsley at Iona. Bob probably doesn't even know how impactful he was to me, but that was when I learned hyperscaling. We went from 30 million to $100 million in a couple of years. He had a great lieutenant named Dave Keller, who I also worked with as a peer and then worked for. And those two guys had a bigger impact on me in learning what I would need to know to get ready for data domain. And I think that struggle gave me an appreciation, Randy, for how lucky I was when I got in the other spots in my career. Because if you don't know struggle, you can't appreciate success, right?
Yep.
So I think
Failure is good.
failure is great in some ways. It feels like crap when you're going through it. Don't get
Right.
me wrong. I mean, I don't urge that for anybody, but I think it teaches you humility and humbleness and a willingness to get really hungry and then really appreciate the journey that you're on and the good fortune you have. I think a lot of the folks I work with now, they've never seen struggle. And I think that having gone through a little adversity in life is something that makes you a better human over time.
Oh, you're saying that, having to show up and actually go to the office for, 6 hours a week, that's not a struggle?
Oh, come on, and make calls yourself and send emails and follow up. That seems like a lot of work. No, I think having gone through the basics, but also learning how to sell in a tough economic climate, learning how to work for people that may be not as smart as you,
Right.
or figuring out how to navigate when you don't have the world's best product. What do you do, and how do you still be successful?
Yeah. So on my feed, the things eventually go out, but it looks like we've got some good back and forth here. Chris McCarthy calling out Todd, saying
Oh, it's a reunion. I mean, this
Todd
is
makes everyone angry. So appreciate the comments for sure. Feel free to ask any questions at all. And just to digress here, sounds like what Jim was saying, you had a ferocious travel schedule, which, as he said, is a great way to kind of lead by example. Because if you're doing it, then everybody else has to get their butts out there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to do the job that you need to do, and sometimes it means putting your personal life a little bit on hold as you have to do it. And I honestly thought that if I was going to ask my people to join a company where the certainty was far from certain, right?
Right.
You're going to a startup with $3 million, and immature product market fit, that it was unfair for me to expect them to do the work without me doing as much or more, and learning from them what was working so I could apply it across everybody else. So every time I traveled, the goal was, how do I inspire and learn, and then how do I apply it other places?
Yeah. So I think you're just about at the data domain stage, and you've got a great story how you convinced the board to hire you.
Yeah, well, so after Iona, I went to a small company called TogetherSoft that got bought by Borland. And Borland is where I met Frank Slootman. He was the head of products. I was running a whole group of selling at Borland, and we shared a wall, and we famously had a pound on the wall because sometimes I'd hear him way too clearly, and sometimes he would hear me way too clearly. And then we realized we lived close to each other. We spent some time to each other. When he departed to Data Domain, I called him up and said, "Hey, I know data storage. You need a guy that's going to help, get you to $10 million. And I need a VP job. Like, I need to come in and run something." And so I met with the board, Anil Bushri, Scott from NEA, and it was Scott Sindell, sorry. And those guys didn't like me. They said, smart young guy, not experienced enough, never run a global sales program, doesn't know anything about data storage. And I said, that's exactly why you should hire me. You should hire me because I'm going to take a beginner's mindset to a problem that has never been solved before. You need to go from 0 to $1 billion, or 0 to, our world was $10 million in 3 years. How do you do that? And how do you do it efficiently? And if I approach this like every other storage company, you're going to fail. So I wanted to come at it with a different way. And I hired people, and Jim Grew is one of them. Forma is another. I made a point of hiring people with a chip on their shoulder. I had one. So why not hire people that reflected my personality in that regard? They were all skilled at what they did, but God damn it, they had something to prove. And that's what was super important to me early days at Data Domain.
Awesome.
And I eventually got hired because I sold really hard. I understood the objection, had to overcome the objection, had to agree to not take VP of Worldwide Sales, take VP of North America, agree to the fact that if Frank found somebody better than me, that I was gone and he'd give me all of like 3 months of severance. I had to agree to a lot of risk, but it was worth the risk because I wanted the opportunity, and I felt like it was my time and place. If I couldn't prove myself, I'd probably be parking cars right now. So luckily for me, I got it done, but it was a massive risk for me and then everybody else on the journey.
Awesome. So keep through, maybe go a little faster here to.
Okay, sorry. So from there, Data Domain spent 7.5 years, went 0 to $1 billion. We got acquired in 2009 by EMC, met some incredible people, including my mortal enemy, now friend, Billy Scannell. I used him as foil for a lot of things I did at Data Domain, wanting to really beat the beast. Then after that acquisition, I stayed for a little bit, delivered a really high quality company, and took care of my people during that process. Became a venture guy for about 3 months, where I was an exec in residence trying to find the next gig. Hopefully, I thought be a CEO. Slootman calls up and says, "Hey, do you want to bring the band back together?" And he meant Scarpelli, who's our CFO, myself, and himself. And then we added a few more, and we did ServiceNow. And what we didn't know about
ServiceNow.
I'm sorry?
He was at ServiceNow, the CFO?
Mike Scarpelli was the CFO at Data Domain, then ServiceNow, then Snowflake. Probably the best CFO I've ever worked with.
So you want to know how stupid I am? So I was with him with some friends in Cabo at
Chileno Bay.
At Chileno Bay, and it was Super Bowl weekend right before COVID hit, and I had all kinds of things going on. He's like, "Hey, we have a great company here. I think you could help us and do this and that, blah blah blah. Recruit with my kind of recruiting business and go to market and consulting and advising." I'm like, "Oh, no, that's okay. I'm good." Blah blah blah. Right. And then I don't know what, a year or so later, whatever it was just totally on fire. And I call him back. Hey, he's like, "Hey, dude, you missed it. We're good now." But it's basically that right after that weekend, then COVID hit, everything shut down, and then obviously they cranked. So that was one of my several misses in life.
Yeah, well, hey, working with Frank and Mike was some of the top honor of my life. To be fair, I had three great CEOs at ServiceNow. I had, well, actually maybe four. Fred, the founder, who was transitioning to Frank when we came in. Frank, then John Dono, and then Bill. And having that combination of great CEOs was a great partnership for me. They let me run hard, and they respected what I was trying to build, and I tried to build within each of their images of a culture that reflected what they liked, but also was super true to myself on that journey.
Gotcha. So we have a question. Obviously, lots of great comments, but a question here. How did you handle the ejections? Probably supposed to be rejection you received. If you received one, when you framed it as beginner's mindset to unsolved problem.
So I think in life, whenever I mean, there's different kind of rejection, right? There's failure rejection, meaning you get fired by something because you didn't execute on a plan. This was me overcoming a hiring objection, which is the same thing you have to do in a sales campaign, right? So selling a product or selling yourself is similar. So I had to really focus on what did they need, right? What was it that was important? They needed somebody to get $10 million. And so I basically convinced them that there was going to be no one that was going to outwork me or outsmart me or out curiosity my brain to solve the problem. And so by solving that problem, they're like, oh, okay, we'll give them a shot. And then the next thing happened is they thought that they could probably find someone better, more experienced than me. And luckily, in that couple of years, I was so good that Slootman said, hey, I'm going to ride this pony. And he gave me the chance. And I think great leaders understand how passionate their employees can be. And you either bet on the come or you bet on experience and knowledge. And I think sometimes when you find smart, energetic people, you're going to get more out of them going forward. And so that's what I had to sell on at every phase of the business. And, got fortunate. My team didn't fail me. And so as a result, I was fortunate enough to keep my job.
Wow, fantastic. So let's keep going.
So then I did ServiceNow and spent 10 years building that company. And it was awesome. It was about 90 million when I joined. Rob Luddy, who was the original sales leader, was Fred Luddy's brother. Good, really strong, good person. But they needed help scaling the business. And then so what I did is I put it on hyperscale mode, and I had to think about how to go from 16 reps to basically 100 in 90 days. And that's what I did. I hired I want to get the number right, but I think it was 150 people in the first 65 days into the organization to put the thing, the paddles on, really go for it. We knew we had an interesting business. And so we really went. And then luckily enough, we kept finding new markets to go after. My team continued to do an amazing job loving their customer and understanding customer pain. And I think when salespeople can ask great questions of their customers, and your product line keeps expanding and can expand more, we were feeding back what we were hearing about the need to the business. And CJ Desai, who runs product, or Dan McGee, who ran product before him, did a great job of internalizing that, building us the things we needed so that we could go wow the world. And no one, including myself, would ever thought now they're knocking on the door of a $10 billion company. What a privilege to be part of that journey.
Yeah, fantastic. And then now you're involved with Coatue with a bunch of great companies there. So maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, so next chapter of my life, it was either do it again, retire, or do something completely different. And I've always been intrigued by mentoring and helping young companies get to their potential. So at Coatue, I've got the ability to write checks into the next generation of the most impactful companies in the world. And so leading the investment into places like Grafana or Postman, and there's others, has been really Lyra for mental health, has been really an honor for me. And then I get to coach and develop those management teams, give them some of the lessons we learned on the journey, but solve it in their own first principle way. Every company has its own set of challenges, its own culture it needs to build, but helping the CEOs, CFOs, and heads of sales and marketing think about growth, and really then bringing the engineering team into the product development / customer cycle much earlier. And I think if you look at where companies go wrong, it's when everybody gets stovepiped versus bring people together. And so one of my secret skills has always been, how do you build community, not just by the role that you're in, but the job that we really want to do. And the job we want to do is go dominate a marketplace through servicing a customer. Well, how are we going to do that incredibly well? Let's listen to that customer and then be their vendor of choice across every possible domain.
Awesome. And we have a kind of comment and question. I'll just kind of go to the punchline. It sounds like you did some, obviously a lot of sales calls everywhere. This person, it says LinkedIn user, was, I think it might be Griffin Lee, according to Tucker. J&J and Morgan, you ate at Wicked Chicken, but basically says, hey, back in the day, you had a rep and this is Vinod Kasturi, according to Tucker. Thank you, Tucker. So, back in the day, you'd had a rep and a solution consultant or SE. You really didn't have customer success. And the question is, we'd love to hear your perspective kind of then and now about customer success.
You want me to go there now, Randy?
Sure.
Okay, let's unlock the beast. Okay, so here's my view of customer success and what happened at ServiceNow. I walked in, I had as many sellers as I did customer success people and not enough support people. Our average support log was 3 days for a P1 issue when I walked in the door. So I needed more people in support and I needed more people in sales. And when I looked at what customer success was doing, was a Band-Aid for both at the time. And so I disbanded customer success for the first 4 or 5 years I was at ServiceNow. And I said, the job of making a customer happy and successful is the job of the salesperson.
Everybody.
The job of everybody, right? Everybody. But the salesperson's the tip of the spear. And as the tip of the spear, they have to then bring every resource to bear for the good of the company. And it worked well at ServiceNow because we were selling sticky stuff that we knew if we landed or won a new customer, we could expand that relationship over time and then retain it and expand again. And so by doing it, by putting every salesperson in the mode of customer success, every SC in the mode of customer success, every engineer in that mode, I didn't need a full organization. Now, as the organization grew and our customers grew, I needed help to do account management, upgrade management, deployment management, other things. And that's where guys like Vinod, who solved incredible problems for some of our most demanding and difficult customers, came to bear. And I will tell you, it was new when he was there. It got better and better over time. And I think that's just the motion. But I think be warned about these massive customer success organizations that play a job in between support, product management. They're putting Band-Aids on things that are broken. The job is engineering should build incredible product. They should build product that people want that solves real problems. Go-to-market teams take that product and sell it as is or with a little bit of information about where the roadmap is going soon, but not way out there, promise stuff that doesn't ever exist. And then support should be doing the break fix. You should have professional services, really doing the paid for implementation. People value implementation. You don't have to give that stuff away to earn somebody's business. It's a habit. It's a bad habit that a lot of SaaS companies get into. And then it becomes a massive cost center. So run the business forever and efficiently, and then finding out where you really need those people that do incredible jobs of customer success, like Vinod and others on my team. Those are the difference makers. And then you're inserting a few people to make an impact versus massive organizations. I'd rather have twice as many sellers and fewer customer success people.
There you go. And, ultimately, for those that haven't run a P&L, it's all about you have a certain amount of OpEx money to spend. So given limited, everybody says, oh, we should do this, we should do that. I'm like, okay, well, if you have limited amount, what's going to be the best return? And there's all kinds of nice to haves, but what you're pointing out are the must haves, which are the sellers, assuming you got engineering and product and everything else. So,
well, Randy, and I backed up the Brinks truck a few times to people who did big renewals, right? So part of our comp plan drove that notion of customer success. We'll get into that hopefully in a bit, but don't ask people to do things and then don't support them and then don't pay for them. You got to pay them for it. So figure out a way to make sure the comp plan drives the outcomes you want as part of your design principle.
Great. And from Andy here, kind of a two-part question, and I'll ad lib it a bit, but how important is culture when you're looking at companies to invest in, and how do you tell who has a great culture and who doesn't?
That's a great question. So I usually spend a lot of time with founders and CEOs about, tell me why you started this company. And I'm looking for both their personal connection to the problem, like why do they know this space? And then what is it they want to build from a company perspective for their employees and for themselves? And so if they can't start answering the question about, hey, I really want to solve customer problems for this reason. I had this pain myself, or I observed it in the market for a long time, and this is how I tried to validate that. And then what people stand for matters. And it doesn't mean that it's always my culture isn't the right fit for everybody. I'm sure that there are people that may be listening here. They're like, yeah, Schneider, I didn't like working for that guy. And then there are other people who are like, I would, lie down on the train tracks. And somewhere in between is fine. So I think trying to figure out what they stand for, and then do they actually follow it up? And then I talk about it when I come in with the management meetings. I don't tell them to adapt my culture. I say, what's really important for you? And how do you make sure people understand what your business stands for and how they're going to get measured? And then do they fit in?
There you go. Perfect. And other follow on here. So what do you look for in terms of which orgs have a world-class go-to-market team versus those that don't and needs improvements?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I fully understand. How do I do what?
So what do you look at, say, to you evaluate if somebody has a world-class go-to-market team or not? And I would imagine if there's a company that has a great culture and has a great product market fit, but maybe just has a lousy go-to-market engine, you're a kid in a candy shop because you say, hey, I know how to fix that problem.
Well, first of all, I think that it's very rare for a company to get to $50 million, let's say, in size, if everything's messed up. You have to have decent product that solves product market problems, which is job number one. The greatest sales team in the world. If I dropped into company ABC as a decent sales leader, but the product didn't solve an important customer problem, I would not be successful. The key is when you do solve the problem, then how do people like you and I add value to make sure? I used to say to Fred Luddy, I want to put your kindergarten art on every refrigerator in the world, right? Which meant every large employer needed to use ServiceNow because your artwork is so incredible. That was my job, right? So that was the promise, to deliver that for people. And it wasn't just mine, it was everybody who worked with me. It's our kind of sworn obligation. And so doing that, and then, with companies that don't have great culture, it's hard as a board member and investor to change things unless you start changing people. And so my job is to find the company and then help coach a CEO, and then you hire and fire that CEO, and you help them recruit the next generation of leader for the job. And then you try to look for and interview people on multidimensional ways, right? Just having a person who understands MEDDIC really, really well doesn't mean they're going to be a great leader of people. And I think, the reality is the greatest companies get the best loyalty, both out of their customers and of their employees. And that loyalty is earned, not given, right? So, and expected, no, you got to earn it. So I think that's super important.
So I think I'm seeing a trend here. So my guess is you did travel a lot, you did go on a lot of sales calls, but it looks like you ate well. So there's a LinkedIn user, I'm not sure that the name is Tucker, but said I should go back to the hole in wall sushi place on First Street if it still exists. So it sounds like you ate, not only just sales calls, but it sounds like you got brought to some great spots along the way.
Well, one of my belief points was there's never a time as a leader in a company you should eat alone, right? And it meant if I was on the road, I wanted to have, if I didn't have a customer dinner, I was hosting employees. And if it was in a big market, I was hosting brand new employees at a dinner in Germany. I never want to eat alone. I hate sitting at a bar, eating chicken wings. I love chicken wings and I love a bar. Don't want to be there by myself. So doing that, spending, quality time, windshield time in someone's car was really valuable to me. And then the other part is, I like food. Like, come on, who doesn't love food? So might as well take advantage of that.
Yeah, totally. And just to expand more on, I'm a huge believer and took the words out of my mouth, windshield time. So, if you're a manager with somebody that works with you or for you or above you, that quality time, asking the questions, you're kind of inspecting how you can help, what's going on in the market. Just take that as a huge opportunity to learn, which in this case, in the Zoom environment and in the in-office environment, a lot of that kind of tangential stuff for reasons for success really just gets lost. So I'm sure you had lots of great windshield time along the way.
Yeah, and Randy, you and I probably both know the most rewarding part of our job was getting to know the human part of the people we worked with, watching them thrive and get to their goals, their life expectations, whatever else. I mean, it chokes me up. I get notes from people all the time. They're like, "Hey, I just dropped my kid off at college. It was paid for by data domain stock or ServiceNow stock, or I took my parents or grandparents on a vacation, or I just paid off my mortgage, or whatever else." That is an incredible bit of feedback for guys like us, right? That we lead with our heart, not just with a spreadsheet. So I think that's part of it.
Great. So from Mona Lisa, how do you view the balance between having a strong sales-driven approach and ensuring a solid product market fit in early stage companies?
Yeah. So I coach all of my young companies to actually don't go crazy on the number of people you have early on. Spend time as a founder or an early team getting validation of your idea till you have 7 to 10 kind of proof points out there. And there's the next stage. It's a small team, 2, 4, 8 people, to then get you moving, go from founder-led sales to something that starts looking repeatable. And there was a great white paper that I wish I would have read when I was a VP of sales early, that's still out there in Harvard Business Journal. Mark Leslie wrote, I think, the sales learning curve or sales productivity curve.
Yep.
And so many people get that wrong still today. And there's so many great benchmarks out there about when and how to hire and grow out the team. But making sure the product people are very involved. And even, by the way, as you get larger, I wanted CJ Desai to go on trips with me so he could hear first person how the companies found joy in our product, the 3 things they wanted us to keep doing, and then the 3 things they wanted us to start doing, and 3 things they wanted us to stop doing. And that kind of framework of questioning was really important, both from early stage to late stage. And people just need to understand their job is to thrill the customer, and getting that product led motion or product engineering motion tight, as well as tight sales motion.
Absolutely. So we have, let's see here from Austin, Grafana rep here. Thank you for your leadership and investment in the company. How do you think AI will impact enterprise sales profession over the next 10 years? Well, it's obviously impacting it, maybe impacting it now, but let alone 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tools that leverage AI, we're investors in some of them, but like if you're a marketing professional, you can use Jasper to help write content for your web pages or other things. That's pretty amazing technology. There's sales technology that helps you follow up, kind of like a sales co-pilot. What should I be doing today? Summarizing meeting notes. I mean, I use it here at Coatue. Before every meeting, I have an AI tool that actually goes through all of the files on a company I've worked with inside our database, summarizes the current issues, outside trends, and then I get prepared for the meeting because I've got an AI assistant helping me be better at my job. I think that's just going to keep getting better and better and better over time. And I think it's not going to make the rep go away, but I think it helps them become more efficient, and we can expect more productivity from those people over time, which I guess in some ways just means the bar keeps going up of what it means to be the world's best sales professional.
Absolutely. And I have strong beliefs, but do you think 10 years from now that, AI replaces sales reps?
No, I don't. I think AI will assist us in dialing the number, sending emails, and other things like that. But if you really want to be the world's, it's the kind of selling that I did, and I think you did, which is complex business value selling. and then really wanting to understand the business problem of that specific person and company. And let's face it, the individual sponsors we had inside of companies, they were doing something because they wanted to win. They wanted to get promoted. So if we could unlock that, and AI is not going to do that, they're not going to understand those motivations of the individual. We've got to be the ones asking those questions, weaving that together and telling a compelling story.
Great. So we have from a LinkedIn user basically talking about seller's job is to make the customers happy. Maybe one or two things unique that reps used to do, don't really do anymore. One thing I'll think of, whether it was reps or it was me as a leader, I'd say, hey, we had things break a lot more then, but it'd be, hey, 7x24, if something's broken and it's important, you got to call me in the middle of the night. I mean, that's great customer success. You build great loyalty. One thing I think used to happen that probably doesn't as much anymore, not to keep harping on it, but a lot of times I see, reps don't even respond on the weekend. It's a weekend. I can't respond until Monday. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Any other things that come to mind for you?
I think you hit the big ones. I think that what some reps did exceptionally well, and there's a guy listening that I'm gonna blow up his ego a little bit, Jim Grua. One, he worked so hard at understanding the landscape of potential customers, and then building the customers to talk to other customers on his behalf, right? And I think what great reps do is they leverage their customers to be their salespeople in some ways. There's a guy named Dean Klinger and the guys in Texas that work for me in ServiceNow. They used to drop prospects off at a customer for lunch and leave and let the customer talk to the prospect without us there about all the goods and bads of our technology. Talk about trust and difference making, right? No one ever did that before. So, I learned that from my team, right? As far as a new idea, I was like, God damn it, Tom Elder, how could he be so smart? And he is a really smart guy, even though sometimes he doesn't act like it. Sorry, if he's listening, he'll never forgive me.
There you go. Good way to tell.
He was the guy that sold product and over list at times, and I had to sometimes slow him down for that because he's like, the value we provide is bigger than our price point, which I was like, oh, okay, tell me more.
There you go. So I would imagine maybe that was a compensation plan that drove the behavior. So maybe talk about how you drove behavior and culture with what you might call exciting, but yet tough plans.
Yeah. So I'll give you the example. At ServiceNow, as I walked in, the company had been successful before, but I needed to supercharge the energy level. We were a $100 million company. I had to be a $200 million company in 12 months. I had 16 reps and enough capacity to do about $18 million of that revenue. So that's what I walked into. And I had 6 weeks to get ready for sales kickoff and get going. So holy crud, that's going to be a big problem. So what did I do? I pulled Frank Slootman aside, who's our CEO, and I said, Frank, I need to do something pretty unique to be able to recruit the world's best people. And I need to make sure that it's driving the goals that you have for the business and the culture we want to stand for. And as I designed the comp plan, we walked through all the elements, and I still remember Frank saying to me, that's not rich enough. If you want the world's best, we got to go make it really exciting. Let's tweak this, let's tweak that. And we combined to create what I think was a super compelling thing for our people. And some of that was change management. If I look at one of the things we did early on at ServiceNow, I changed the average selling price. We doubled it in less than 6 months. Well, what did I do? I put a discount bonus in the comp plan. I said, hey, if you sell over this price, right, you're going to get paid more. And then where did the price go? It's like, make it interesting. I wanted people to worry about renewals. So I said, hey, I'm going to pay you outside the comp plan for all 3-year and 1-year renewals at different rates. So you get paid if a company is successful with this over time. And oh, by the way, if any dollars churn, you get hit. You got to make that up in your comp plan. So it was fair. It was a carrot and a stick. And each time I did something with comp plan design, it was all about what behavior do I want to drive? We need to drive logos in the Global 2000. There was a bonus for that. I want to drive lots of logos in commercial. If you hit over a threshold, I paid you more. And it was all extra things outside of the plan inside of the budget that was like, hey man, we want to drive incredible outcomes. And yeah, it was like BLP, except the thing that BLP did at EMC, sorry, I read ahead, Randy, is you guys let buckets get filled up and accelerated so reps would game the system. Hell no, you can't game one of Dave Schneider's comp plans. I gamed it to get what I wanted out of the people, and I made it really exciting and interesting for each of them to participate.
But how many times these days do you find the, I'll say, more engineering centric CEOs have the opposite view from what you just said? And how much do they get just stuck in the mud and are not successful just for this one little tweak?
If I'm an investor in a company, part of my job is to bring them along for the roadshow, right? Get them to understand that this is an opportunity for them to do something. And like, I'm an investor in one young company here, and I can't say the name, but there's a great VP of sales there, and we're working together to change the mindset of the CEO founder right now about what it takes. And world class is world class. And it, again, loyalty is built a lot of ways. Part of it is through compensation. Part of it is through how you deal with people with integrity and respect and hold a high bar. But compensation is one trigger that will help you recruit great people. And if you just treat them decently, they're not going anywhere else.
Absolutely. And speaking of treating decently, looks like Above and Beyond. It says LinkedIn user, Dave is a heart of gold. Unfortunately, one of our sales folks passed away of natural causes in the early days of ServiceNow. Dave went to bat for him to the board and made sure that the family was well taken care of. This dude rocks. So it looks like that might have been Vinod. So Vinod, thank you so much. And can't get any more authentic than that. So
yeah, by the way, that was one of the worst days of my life.
Very, very special. So as we get to the end here, what about some of your beliefs on forecasting?
I think forecasting is like a blood oath when it comes down to getting it right and wrong. And I think one of the things, Randy, that we didn't benefit from when we were leading sales was some of the advanced techniques and technologies that exist in the modern sales stack around sales forecast analytics and things like that. I built a sales weighting formula that allowed me to have kind of the worst case scenario plus or minus a couple percentage points covered inside of what I was committing to the board and to the leadership team at Data Domain. And the whole goal of a sales leader, besides building a team, is then building consistent results and outcomes. And what gave the board confidence to keep investing in the organizations that I was leading was that I never missed a number by more than 2%, with the exception of one total .com, or meltdown in 2009, when the whole market melted. It is because of strong forecasting rigor, and then being able to build that capacity and that approach up so that everybody in the organization would call a deal the same exact way at the stage that it was at, and then learning what it would take to move it through those stages was important. And there are guys that love to put things in I call it the desk drawer and never show it to people. That wasn't doing me any favors as a sales leader. So I needed to see everything, but call a spade when things weren't going to close. And the worst thing to do to me, and I think some of these guys on the call who are listening in, is have a deal still in Salesforce or your forecasting system on the last day of the quarter at 5:00 and not have it updated and still show it pending. Because now everybody in the organization is still waiting, and I just can't stand that. And I'll call people. I used to call people up at ServiceNow and say, "Hey, Sue or Dave, I can't believe this deal's still going. That's great. Well, how can I help you close it?" Like, "Oh, that deal's not going to happen." And you can only imagine I came down the street pretty fast on that one.
Yeah, violent agreement. Or, oh, it slipped, they lost their money. I'm like, okay, so if you go back 3 weeks ago, you probably could have qualified in position by A, B, C, D. Why you get it? It's not good thing. It's not rocket science, right? Like, how do people not do this, right?
By the way, Randy, you and I both know that the number one priorities with the best ROI and the best thoughtful case are going to get funded in tough economic times. And the deals without a really thoughtful case and a bad ROI are sloppy selling, meaning, well, they told me they needed it. I don't want to hear that. What's the business problem we're solving? Why now? What's the impact if they don't do something now? Let's close this deal. And I would find dollars from companies
Oh,
because
yeah.
you showed better benefit than something else they were going to do.
Yeah. I would say if you're in the elevator with the CFO and you got 30 seconds, what are you going to say? Right. It's going to help generate revenue, help you save money, get a competitive advantage for compliance, stay out of jail, et cetera, et cetera. But, so much of that is missing. So, so you've been amazing. Thanks. So final question, I'll say, is there one thing, if you could give advice to your younger self?
I think there are a couple. I say pick companies that are going in the right direction for the most part. You learn a lot when companies are successful, and that doesn't always mean full speed ahead, 300% a year. But generally, the market's big. They're doing more right than wrong. If you're a first-time seller or second-time seller. Second, if you're a leader of people, remember your job is to lead them, coach them, develop them, not just tell them what to do or manage them. Management is a privilege, and you take the careers of the team that you're managing very seriously. Third is learn from failure, don't run away from it, right? Probably embrace some risk, especially early on in your career, and then study it and understand why and how you could make it better. And then finally, one of the questions I ask one of my customers is, who is your favorite vendor and why? And how can I become that person? And the amount of information I would get by asking that question was really fascinating. And sometimes it was, like you said, being there on a rainy day with replacement equipment because something broke, or answering the phone on a weekend. Sometimes it was, leaning into an opportunity, spending time or money on something, or that you were willing to educate them on what you were hearing about other things going on in the market. But high trust is something to go after, and treat that with utmost responsibility to go earn that right.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I forgot to mention before, Tuck will put up a link. I've got, obviously I'm biased, but a lot of some of the sales leaders you mentioned, others contributed to my book called Your Go-To Sales Advisor. And next week, speaking of books, we're going to have Matt Dixon on, who has a great new book, The Jolt Effect, and is one of the fathers of Challenger sales. So Dave, you've been amazing, incredible, so much more we could have gotten to and didn't, but I think you far exceeded expectations. So thanks so much. And you obviously have had an amazing impact on the lives of a lot of great people out there. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Randy. Great to be here.
All right. And thanks, Tucker, for your help behind the scenes. Everybody have a